top of the day, beautiful people. Facebook, YouTube. All right, y'all. It's another day. Thank you, Gail. All right, y'all. Let me bring my stuff up here. Trina, hey, girl. Hey. Tiffany, did you get a chance to watch a little bit of what I sent you yesterday? I was so glad to see them do that video. I'm like, yes, let me share this with Tiffany. Tiffany said something about this yesterday. Remember when I asked? Well, I asked. I was telling y'all I was thinking about what we was going to read next, and you had mentioned about doing the deep dive into Enoch. And lo and behold, here go Tail Ministries doing a little bit about some of the stuff we kind of know about, but I haven't really brought out on the channel, right? That was so good, y'all. But I study it a lot. I just don't know about bringing. I do kind of weave some of it in every now and then when we get this stuff where I think is a good place to kind of bring some of it out, you know. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna watch it over the day. It was good. He got a lot of stuff in there. Peaceful greetings, welcome to thank you. All right, y'all. Make sure this my screen is aligned right. All right, we got that there. Okay, let me go ahead and bring up the Shema. Okay. All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. It is July the 27th, 2021, day 217 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And today we're reading Jeremiah 31, 32, 33. And we're going to pick up where we left off at in Fossilized Customs on page 268. And I didn't mention the 3-year count. It is year 3 of the 3-year consecutive day count. We are on day 886. That's 888. Yes, we've been here 3 years in a row every single day, except for the Sabbath days. Why? Because we rest, right? Okay. We need one day to rest. Even though I don't count this as work, I am grateful for the rest days that I take where I can kind of rejuvenate. It's like a day where I really got to talk with people. I still talk to people, but I try not to. I try not to even answer my phone. Like my family and stuff is always a Sabbath. She ain't gonna answer her phone. Not that I wouldn't, but I really do try and cut off as much as I can, and I do try and keep my posting down to a minimum. Right? If it's something I feel like I just want to share or whatever, or even something funny, I'll just post it. But those days I really do try and cut off everything, even talking on the phone. I've been trying to get in touch with you all day. It's the Sabbath. Why you calling my phone? Girl. All right, y'all. Let's do the Shema. Shema's found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Remember, read the whole full chapter when you get a chance. It's a good refresher because I didn't put in everything, but what I'm reading here is the gist of everything. There is a little more detail in what Yahuwah said, what happened. And I think it's good that you go read it. But like I said, I just pulled out the gist of what we should be doing, and all good things will follow, right? Hear, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the Elohim of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel. Listen up, people. Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand. And they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before you, who are our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. So let's get this going. Check this over here real quick. All right. Jeremiah. Oh, I didn't put in the wrong one. I'm glad I double checked that. Hold on. Put in the wrong chapter, y'all. Okay. Jeremiah chapter 31. Oh, the reading is good today. Listen, it's talking about some of the stuff I brought up yesterday, and I kind of be repeating all the time, but we done made it. Hope for restoration. In that day, says Yahuwah, I will be the God of all the families of Israel, and they will be my people. This is what Yahuwah says. Those who survive the coming destruction will find blessings even in the barren land, for I will give rest to the people of Israel. Long ago, Yahuwah said to Israel, I have loved you, my people, with an everlasting love. With unfailing love, I have drawn you to myself. I will rebuild you, my virgin Israel. You will again be happy and dance merrily with your tambourines. Again, you will plant your vineyards on the mountains of Samaria and eat from your own gardens there. The day will come when watchmen will shout from the hill country of Ephraim, come, let us go up to Jerusalem to worship Yahuwah our God. Now, this is what Yahuwah says. Sing with joy for Israel. Shout for the greatest of nations. Shout out with praise and joy. Save your people, O Yah, the remnant of Israel. For I will bring them from the north and from the distant corners of the earth. I will not forget the blind and lame, the expectant mothers and women in labor. A great company will return. Tears of joy will stream down their faces, and I will lead them home with great care. They will walk beside quiet streams and on smooth paths where they will not stumble. For I am Israel's father, and Ephraim is my oldest child. Listen to this message from Yahuwah, you nations of the world. Proclaim it in distant coastlands. Yahuwah, who scattered his people, will gather them and watch over them as a shepherd does his flock. For Yahuwah has redeemed Israel from those too strong for them. They will come home and sing songs of joy on the heights of Jerusalem. They will be radiant because of Yahuwah's good gifts, the abundant crops of grain, new wine, and olive oil, and the healthy flocks and herds. Their life will be like a watered garden, and all their sorrows will be gone. The young women will dance for joy, and the men, old and young, will join in the celebration. I will turn their mourning into joy. I will comfort them and exchange their sorrow for rejoicing. The priests will enjoy abundance, and my people will feast on my good gifts. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. Rachel's sadness turned to joy. Shalom, Mom. This is what Yahuwah says. A cry is heard in Ramah, deep anguish and bitter weeping. Rachel weeps for her children, refusing to be comforted, for her children are gone. But now, this is what Yahuwah says. Do not weep any longer, for I will reward you, says Yahuwah. Your children will come back to you from the distant land of the enemy. There is hope for your future, says Yahuwah. Your children will come again to their own land. I have heard Israel saying, you disciplined me severely, like a calf that needs training for the yoke. Turn me again to you and restore me, for you alone are my Lord and my God. I turned away from Yahuwah, but then I was sorry. I kicked myself for my stupidity. I was thoroughly ashamed of all I did in my younger days. Listen. Is not Israel still my son? My son, my son, Israel, my son, my son, my son. Is not Israel still my son, my darling child, says Yahuwah? I often have to punish him, but I still love him. That's why I long for him, and surely will have mercy on him. Set up road signs, put up guideposts, mark well the path by which you came. Come back again, my virgin Israel. Return to your towns here. How long will you wander, my wayward daughter? For Yahuwah will cause something new to happen. Israel will embrace her God. This is what Yahuwah, the God of heaven's armies, the God of Israel, says. When I bring them back from captivity, the people of Judah and its towns will again say, Yahuwah bless you, O righteous home, O holy mountain. Townspeople and farmers and shepherd alike will live together in peace and happiness, for I have given rest to the weary and joy to the sorrowing. At this, I woke up and looked around. My sleep had been very sweet. The day is coming, says Yahuwah, when I will greatly increase the human population and the number of animals here in Israel and Judah. Hold on. I was reading it like it was more to come after that word. Hold on. We'll read that again. The day is coming, says Yahuwah, when I will greatly increase the human population and the number of animals here in Israel and Judah. In the past, I deliberately uprooted and tore down this nation. I overthrew it, destroyed it, and brought disaster upon it. But in the future, I will just as deliberately plant it and build it up. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. The people will no longer quote this proverb. The parents have eaten sour grapes, but their children's mouths pucker at the taste. All people will die for their own sins. Those who eat sour grapes will be the ones whose mouths will pucker, right? What do you say? Everybody gonna die for their own sins. Ain't nobody dying for you. Everybody will die for their own sins. So you better get it together. I just want to point these things out to you, just in case you missed what Yahuwah had said. Auntie, hey girl, hey. Shayla, hey girl, hey. I read that again. Let me just go back up one verse. The people will no longer quote this proverb. The parents have eaten sour grapes, but their children's mouths pucker at the taste. All people will die for their own sins. Those who eat sour grapes will be the ones whose mouths will pucker. So I can't eat something sour and expect you to get the result, that sourness in your mouth, right? I'm the one who ate it. I'm going to be the one who experienced it, right? I'm the one who sinned. I'm going to be the one to get my tail toe off. I'm the one who kept the blessings of Yah. I will be the one who benefit from the blessings of Yah, right? I'm just saying, that's like common sense, like, right? I can't be hungry and have you go eat from me and my belly get full, right? That's what Yahuwah was saying. All people will die for their own sins. Those who eat the sour grapes will be the ones whose mouths will pucker. The day is coming, says Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and Judah. This covenant will not be like the one I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand and brought them out of the land of Egypt. They broke that covenant, though I loved them as a husband loves his wife, says Yahuwah. I'm going to read that again. This is good all day long. Listen, hold on. Listen. Pay attention to this covenant. I be talking about this covenant all the time, y'all. Y'all got to pay attention because we here. He about to say it. Verse 31 of Jeremiah, chapter 31. It's easy to remember. Jeremiah 31 and 31. Jeremiah 31 and 31. If you ever forget, think 31. Oh, Jeremiah 31, 31. Right? Y'all shouldn't forget it from this point. The day is coming, says Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and Judah. This covenant will not be like the one I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand and brought them out of the land of Egypt. They broke that covenant, though I love them as a husband loves his wife, says Yahuwah. But this is the new covenant I will make with the people of Israel after those days, says Yahuwah. I will put my instructions. What instructions? The instructions he gave them since day one, since he reissued the Torah at Sinai. I will put my instructions free from leaven of everybody that's added and taken away from his instructions. Only his instructions, right? But this is the new covenant I will make with the people of Israel after those days, says Yahuwah. I will put my instructions deep within them, and I will write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. And they will not need to teach their neighbors, nor will they need to teach their relatives, saying, you should know Yahuwah. For everyone, from the least to the greatest, will already know me, says Yahuwah, and I will forgive their wickedness, and I will never again remember their sins. Like he's going to make it a part of us. It is like the air we breathe is going to be the commandments of Yah inside of us. It's us. Those his people. Them right there. Yes, because it's going to be ingrained into every fiber, right? We just taking this body through boot camp, getting it ready to receive it, right? We just waiting for the full manifestation of it. We just come on, get ready because it's coming. Go ahead, flesh. No, we're not gonna do that. We're getting ready because we are to be holy because he is holy. We're getting ready for this. So you better start practicing now. I'll read it again. But this is the new covenant I will make with the people of Israel after those days, says Yahuwah. I will put my instructions deep within them, and I will write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. And they will not need to teach their neighbors, nor they need to teach their relatives, saying, you should know Yahuwah. For everyone, from the least to the greatest, will know me already, says Yahuwah, and I will forgive their wickedness, and I will never again remember their sins. It is Yahuwah who provides the sun to light the day, and the moon and the stars to light the night, and who stirs the sea into roaring rate, and who stares the sea into roaring waves. His name is Yahuwah, the God of heaven's armies, and this is what he says. I am as likely to reject my people Israel as I am to abolish the laws of nature. That means it ain't gonna happen. This is what Yahuwah says. Just as the heavens cannot be measured and the foundations of the earth cannot be explored, so will I not consider casting them away for the evil they have done. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. The day is coming, says Yahuwah, when all Jerusalem will be rebuilt for me, from the tower of Hananel to the corner gate. A measuring line will be stretched out over the hill of Gareb and across to Goah, and the entire area, including the graveyard and the ash dump in the valley, and all the fields out to the Kidron Valley on the east, as far as the horse gate, will be holy to Yahuwah. The city will never again be captured or destroyed. That was just one chapter. Okay. Jeremiah chapter 32. Jeremiah's land purchase. The following message came to Jeremiah from Yahuwah in the 10th year of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. This was also the 18th year of the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar. Jerusalem was then under siege from the Babylonian army, and Jeremiah was imprisoned in the courtyard of the guard in the royal palace. King Zedekiah had put him there, asking why he kept giving this prophecy. This is what Yahuwah says. I am about to hand this city over to the king of Babylon, and he will take it. King Zedekiah will be captured by the Babylonians and taken to meet the king of Babylon face to face. He will take Zedekiah to Babylon, and I will deal with him there, says Yahuwah. If you fight against the Babylonians, you will never succeed. like the king, right? It's the king who causes the people to sin. He kind of afraid. He don't want to quite kill Jeremiah because he kind of respect Jeremiah. So he just going to lock him up. He keep coming to him, look, why you keep getting this prophecy, man? Because you keep sinning, man. He said, well, Jeremiah, you got to stay here because I don't like that prophecy. Well, I ain't the one giving the prophecy, king. Well, you're going to stay here anyway till you change your tune. Well, I'll see you in Babylon, king. And Yahuwah said he will take Zedekiah to Babylon. And since he ain't going to listen to Jeremiah, I'm going to deal with him there. I just kind of added since he's not going to deal with Jeremiah. I'm going to read it like it is. He will take Zedekiah to Babylon, and I will deal with him there, says Yahuwah. If you fight against the Babylonians, you will never succeed. At that time, Yahuwah sent me a message. He said, your cousin, Hanamel, son of Shulam, will come to you and say, buy my field at Anathoth. By law, you have the right to buy it before it is offered to anyone else. Then just as Yahuwah has said he would, my cousin, Hanamel, came and visited me in prison. He said, please buy my field at Anathoth in the land of Benjamin. By law, you have the right to buy it before it is offered to anyone else. So buy it for yourself. Then I knew that the message I heard was from Yahuwah. Yahuwah ever did that for y'all? Will he tell you something going to happen before it happened? It is the coolest thing. And it don't happen like years off down the road. Like I'm talking like same day type stuff like, like seriously. I know I shared one story, one of my famous stories about that, but he do that. That's how you can know you hearing from him, right? So I bought the field at Anathoth, paying Hanamel 17 pieces of silver for it. I signed and sealed the deed of purchase before witnesses, weighed out the silver, and paid him. Then I took the sealed deed and an unsealed copy of the deed, which contained the terms and conditions of the purchase, and I handed them to Baruch, son of Neriah and grandson of Messiah. I did all this in the presence of my cousin Hanamel, the witnesses who had signed the deed, and all the men of Judah who were there in the courtyard of the guardhouse. Now everybody came to the jailhouse to witness this while he locked up. I mean, who gets those type of privileges while they in jail, right? I mean, I guess they kind of still could through the bar as long as you got your lawyer there. I mean, kind of, yeah, you know. Jeremiah probably still had a little bit more freedom, although he was locked up. But he's still behind bars, though. I'm going to keep reading. Jeremiah's prayer. Hold on. Did I read this? No, let me read 13. Then I said to Baruch, as they all listened, this is what Yahuwah, the God of heaven's armies, the God of Israel, says. Take both this sealed deed and the unsealed copy and put them into a pottery jar to preserve them for a long time. This is what Yahuwah, the God of heaven's armies, the God of Israel, says. Someday people will again own property here in this land and will buy and sell houses and vineyards and fields. Jeremiah's prayer. Then after I had given the papers to Baruch, I prayed to Yahuwah, O sovereign Lord, you made the heavens and earth by your strong hand and powerful arm. Nothing is too hard for you. You show unfailing love to thousands, but you also bring the consequences of one generation's sin upon the next. Why? Because the generation following keep doing the same shenanigans that the previous generation was doing. That's why those consequences follow them. They aren't being punished because of their father's sins. They're being punished because they're still continuing in their father's sins. Therefore, they are being punished for their father's sins. That makes sense, right? It makes sense if you understand what was happening, right? I thought you said you weren't going to punish us for our sins. Yeah, I said that, but you are still committing sin. You decide to look at your father and do what your father was doing. So now you're going to get what your father got, right? I'm going to punish you too. Now, you being punished for your own sins you're committing, as well as the sins of your father that you're committing too. But had you been righteous and not done that, you would not be being punished, right? Okay. I'll read my prayer again. O sovereign Lord, you made the heavens and the earth by your strong hand and powerful arm. Nothing is too hard for you. You show unfailing love to thousands, but you also bring the consequences of one generation's sin upon the next. You are the great and powerful God, the Lord of heaven's armies. You have all wisdom and do great and mighty miracles. You see the conduct of all people, and you give them what they deserve. You perform miraculous signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, things still remembered to this day. And you have continued to do great miracles in Israel and all around the world. You have made your name famous this day. You brought Israel out of Egypt with mighty signs and wonders, with a strong hand and powerful arm, and with overwhelming terror. You gave the people of Israel this land that you promised their ancestors long before, a land flowing with milk and honey. Our ancestors came and conquered it and lived in it, but they refused to obey you or follow your word. They have not done anything you commanded. That is why you have sent this terrible disaster upon them. See how the siege ramps have been built against the city walls? Through war, famine, and disease, this city will be handed over to the Babylonians who will conquer it. Everything has happened just as you said, and yet, O sovereign Lord, you have told me to buy the field, paying good money for it before these witnesses, even though the city will be soon handed over to the Babylonians. A prediction of Jerusalem's fall. Then this message came to Jeremiah from Yahuwah. I am Yahuwah, the God of all the peoples of the world. Is anything too hard for me? Therefore, this is what Yahuwah says. I will hand the city over to the Babylonians and to Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and he will capture it. The Babylonians outside the walls will come in and set fire to the city. They will burn down all these houses where the people provoke my anger by burning incense to Baal on the rooftops and by pouring out liquid offerings to other gods. Israel and Judah have done nothing but wrong since their earliest days. They have infuriated me with all their evil deeds, says Yahuwah. From the time the city was built until now, it has done nothing but anger me. So I am determined to get rid of it. Ooh, sheesh. The sins of Israel and Judah, the sins of the people of Jerusalem, the kings, the officials, the priests, and the prophets have stirred up my anger. My people have turned their backs on me and have refused to return. Even though I diligently taught them, they would not receive instruction or obey. They have set up their abominable idols right in my own temple, defiling it. They have built pagan shrines to Baal in the valley of Ben Hinnom, and there they sacrificed their sons and daughters to Molech. I never commanded such a horrible deed. It never even crossed my mind to command such a thing. What an incredible evil, causing Judah to sin so great. And here's another time we hear this again, right? He said, this never even crossed my mind. These human blood sacrifice, he said, it's a horrible deed. It never even crossed my mind to command such a thing. What an incredible evil, causing Judah to sin so greatly. The promise of restoration. Now, I want to say something more about this city. You have been saying it will fall to the king of Babylon through war, famine, and disease. But this is what Yahuwah, the God of Israel, says. I will certainly bring my people back again from all the countries where I will scatter them in fury. I will bring them back to this very city and let them live in peace and safety. They will be my people, and I will be their God. And I will give them one heart and one purpose to worship me forever, for their own good and for the good of all their descendants. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them. I will never stop doing good for them. I will put a desire in their hearts to worship me, and they will never leave me. I will find joy doing good for them and will faithfully and wholeheartedly replant them in this land. And this is what Yahuwah says. Just as I have brought all these calamities on them, so I will do all the good I have promised them. Fields again will be bought and sold in this land, about which you now say it has been ravaged by the Babylonians, a desolate land where people and animals have disappeared. Yes, fields will once again be bought and sold, deeds signed and sealed and witnessed in the land of Benjamin, and here in Jerusalem, in the towns of Judah, and in the hill country, in the foothills of Judah, and in the Negev too. For someday I will restore prosperity to them. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. All right, y'all. Last chapter for the day, Jeremiah chapter 33. Yah, you want to share with us what his name is and all the research you pulled up for it, verifying that Yah is not his name, right? Even the praise, right? Hallelujah. Even if we got the ending wrong, the Yah is right. All nations know that. Hallelujah. We can talk about that though. Email me your stuff because you can't just post all your research in the chat box. It ain't gonna fit. All right, but email it to me. If you go to my about section, my email is there. Send it to me. Let me look over it. And then if I find some good points after I research it, I'll share it with the people. All right, Jeremiah chapter 33. Promises of peace and prosperity. While Jeremiah was still confined in the courtyard of the guard, Yahuwah gave him this second message. This is what Yahuwah says: the Lord who made the earth, who formed and established it, whose name is Yahuwah. Ask me, and I will tell you remarkable secrets you do not know about the things to come. For this is what Yahuwah, the God of Israel, says: you have torn down the houses of this city and even the king's palace to get materials to strengthen the walls against the siege ramps and swords of the enemy. You expect to fight the Babylonians, but the men of this city are already as good as dead. For I have determined to destroy them in my terrible anger. I have abandoned them because of all their wickedness. Nevertheless, the time will come when I will heal Jerusalem's wounds and give it prosperity and true peace. I will restore the fortunes of Judah and Israel and rebuild their towns. I will cleanse them of their sins against me and forgive all their sins of rebellion. Then this city will bring me joy, glory, and honor before all the nations of the earth. The people of the world will see all the good I do for my people, and they will tremble with awe at the peace and prosperity I provide for them. This is what Yahuwah says. You have said, this is a desolate land where people and animals have all disappeared. Yet in the empty streets of Jerusalem and Judah's other towns, there will be heard once more the sounds of joy and laughter, the joyful voices of the bridegrooms, and the brides will be heard again, along with the joyous songs of people bringing thanksgiving offerings to Yahuwah. They will sing, give thanks to Yahuwah, the God of heaven's armies, for Yahuwah is good, and his faithful love endures forever. For I will restore the prosperity of this land to what it was in the past, says Yahuwah. This is what Yahuwah, the God of heaven's army, says. This land, though it is now desolate and has no people and animals, will once more have pastures where shepherds can lead their flocks. Once again, shepherds will count their flocks in the towns of the hill country, the foothills of Judah, the Negev, the land of Benjamin, the vicinity of Jerusalem, and all the towns of Judah. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. The day will come, says Yahuwah, when I will do for Israel and Judah all the good things I have promised them. In those days and at that time, I will raise up a righteous descendant from King David's line. He will do what is just and righteous throughout the land. In that day, Judah will be saved, and Jerusalem will live in safety. And this will be its name. Yahuwah is our righteousness. But this is what Yahuwah says: David will have a descendant sitting on the throne of Israel forever. And there will always be Levitical priests to offer burnt offerings and grain offerings and sacrifices to me. Then this message came to Jeremiah from Yahuwah. This is what Yahuwah says: if you can break my covenant with the day and the night so that one does not follow the other, only then will my covenant with my servant David be broken. Only then will he no longer have a descendant to reign on his throne. The same is true for my covenant with the Levitical priests who minister before me. As the stars of the sky cannot be counted, and the sand on the seashore cannot be measured, so I will multiply the descendants of my servant David and the Levites who minister before me. Yahuwah gave another message to Jeremiah. He said, have you noticed what the people are saying? Yahuwah chose Judah and Israel and then abandoned them. They are sneering and saying that Israel is not worthy to be counted as a nation. But this is what Yahuwah says: I will no more reject my people, then I will change my laws that govern night and day, earth and sky. I will never abandon the descendants of Jacob or David, my servant, or change the plan that David's descendants will rule the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Instead, I will restore them to their land and have mercy on them. All right, beautiful people, that is our reading for today. Let's go ahead and hop on over here to Fossilized Customs, where we left off at yesterday on page 260. All right, y'all. So it's getting into the 7 Sabbaths of the year. Matter of fact, that's the title. The 7 Sabbaths of the year. It's about love. So it's actually going in to he's calling them the 7 Sabbaths of the year, but they're actually, you're going to see, it's talking about the feast days. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 16, Leviticus chapter 23. Redemption is pictured or shadowed in the 7 annual Sabbaths, and collectively they are an agricultural metaphor. The agricultural cycle is used to shadow the redemption of Yahuwah's bride, which he calls Israel of Yahuwah. Each of the 7 annual Sabbaths conceal meanings which remain hidden from those who do not practice them, and even those who do practice them from a fleshly approach don't see the spiritual side of them, and that we can prove, right? Because those who don't keep the commands, although they call themselves believers, even if they call themselves Hebrew roots or whatever, but they don't actually practice the feast, because Yahuwah said, do this, right? So you can kind of remember, not that we're doing it religiously just because he said, but as we began to do it, and it didn't click for me for like, I want to say, maybe almost 2 years, that it's not something we're supposed to be doing religiously just because they say just do it. While we're doing it, if we're doing it wholeheartedly, Yahuwah begins to open our eyes on why we actually doing it, right? Because think about, we talk about all the time, like when you're doing math or just learning math, it's good that you have manipulative, something that you can actually see with your hand, so you can actually see the principle of what's going on behind it, right? This is not just, we do this just because. It's just something. I just needed to give y'all something to do. He's trying to teach us a spiritual principle, the underlying principles that cannot readily be seen by the masses because they're so hard-headed. Oh, we ain't got to do that. Well, you're doing too much. Yeah, you're being religious, super spiritual, all that. Just ignore them, right? Because you can clearly see that I'll just say they don't understand, right? They simply don't understand, right? As we begin to do it, Yahuwah begins to open our eyes more and more. And even if we're doing something ignorantly, he will correct us. But just because we haven't quite gotten it right yet, he doesn't abandon us, right? And we are not rebellious. If he sees that we're moving towards him and we're moving towards truth, you'll know he will correct you and adjust you along the way. So don't worry about that. Plug your ears to people who just, you this, you that, there's something wrong with them, right? They too worried about what you're doing. You should be focusing on your own soul salvation, right? Yahuwah will adjust us. Our heart is for truth, and he leads and guides us into all truth. So we keep moving, right? We keep moving while y'all pointing fingers and y'all catch us down the road, right? Further and closer to truth. All right. The agricultural cycle is used to shadow the redemption of Yahuwah's bride, which he calls Israel. Each of the 7 annual Sabbaths conceal meanings which remain hidden from those who don't practice them. And even those who do practice them from a fleshly approach don't see the spiritual side of them. They are so important that the elements they portray play a part in whether or not we will enter into the world to come. Right? Passover. The year opens with Pesach. We remember the protection and deliverance of all of Israel as they were rescued from the bondage of sin or Egypt at this time of year by the power of our deliverer, Yahuwah. Let's see. Our decision to obey is shown by our being observant to this shadow of the things to come. He has knocked and we invited him inside our dwelling. We provide evidence of our conviction that we need him as we acknowledge his protection and deliverance from sin. Okay. Conviction of sin is our first step. Unleavened bread. Next, we prepare our soil. Our lives are cleared as a farm field for planting by getting out stones, boulders, and weeds, clearing our lives of the sin by our decision to repent. When we remove the unleavened bread, we are seeing the shadow. Hold on. I'm sorry, not the unleavened bread. When we remove the leavened bread, we are seeing the shadow of the spiritual action taking place. Avoiding leaven for 7 days, we are now prepared to receive what is to be sown. Think about when we actually going through unleavened bread, right? As a matter of fact, before you get there, even before Passover, you should have actually walked out the action of removing all the leaven from your home, right? That's how diligent we should be with removing sin from our life. And if anybody ever practiced that, y'all been here all the last few years while going through unleavened bread. And I kind of share some stories with y'all about, oops, we forgot something, or you who will be like, go check your cabinet again, Pam. You overlooked something, right? Or I forgot to check this small cabinet over my refrigerator where I forgot last year when I was storing up some stuff. I put things in there, and lo and behold, boom, it got yeast. And I'm like, thank you. Oh my gosh, right? Even with my seasonings or my vegan seasonings, that most seasons can be considered vegan, but there are some things, some mixed seasons that actually, which is still unbeknownst to me, why they have to put yeast extract in it. We found that there is yeast products in it, right? So we had to go through and diligently read all the labels, right? And by us doing this practice, it's not just doing like, what is y'all doing? Y'all clearing out? Why are you looking for yeast? Well, it's a representation. It's something that the entire family could do. And while we're doing it, you're spending time together, and it's a time of teaching. The children are learning how to read the labels. Okay, what does it says? Yeast something. This says yeast this. Some just say yeast. Some actually say leaven. There's leaven byproducts. Is this another word for yeast? So what I had to do, I had to write out all the yeast words, anything leaven, the code words that they have for it. This is what we're looking for, right? And so by doing that, it becomes teachable moments where we can do as Yahuwah tells us in the beginning in the Shema. He said these commands, like he said, you to teach to your children when we lie down, when we rise up, when we walk by the way, when we're sitting at our table, right? These is one of these moments you're teaching them. Okay, why you would say do this? Okay, well, this is like until when we look at our lives, we do it once over or twice over. Look at our lives 3 times. When we consider our own ways, this is how we are to search our own hearts. Make sure we don't have ulterior motives about things, right? We got to clear out the crevices of our heart. And although we don't know all things that are there, Yahuwah can point those things out to us. Just like when we forget to check something and I hear him, Pam, you forgot something. I'm like, what I forget, y'all? Like seriously, we had that conversation back and forth, right? Go check. I'm like, okay, right. Go check. I'm like, oh shoot, thank you, right? So it's just like while we're learning, we learn his voice more and more. And if we don't ignore if we don't ignore his voice, like if I had ignored him when he said, Pam, you forgot something, if I had to just like, I got everything, let me go on, and I never go back to check, that's beginning, that would be my beginning role of not hearing his voice so clear, right? Even if I think I heard him say something, I'm going to go get up and check. But I've been doing this for a few years, and I've come to trust that voice or that inner voice or that inner knowing that has developed over the years. Like, okay, I know that voice. Let me go check what you just said, right? Okay. Oh, shoot. Right. And it's not just with that. We learn that principle by actually keeping to that command or keeping to what he requires for us to do for the Feast of Unleavened Bread by starting way ahead of time, right? Because if you wait to the last minute, like we did the last couple of years, you get them, you forgot something, go check again, right? You run around, oh my gosh, no, if you had just been doing it all year, or when you get closer to the time, just start like, okay, Feast of Unleavened Bread coming up in a couple months. While I began shopping, let me just be aware of the things I shouldn't be messing with, right? Because we might forget to take this out. But even while doing that, and in the process of me being plant-based and remembering this and not want to not having to do like these deep pantry cleans and cabinet cleans when Feast of Unleavened Bread come, I realize that if I just practice this throughout the year, just conscious of this throughout the year, there really wouldn't be much leaven in my house anyway, right? And we realize now that a lot of yeast in the body will affect it in negative ways. So how about we just gonna stop buying these things with yeast in them altogether? Not to say we 100% cut out yeast, because we haven't, and that would be a lie. You can tell by looking at me, sis, you got some yeast in your body. So look, but this is what I'm saying. I'm making conscious habits daily of getting better, right? Finding substitutes of things where we don't necessarily have to use yeast and stuff, right? So it's like growth all the way around. You're not just practicing it for the sake of your religion. No, he's literally teaching you how to live life. Blessed and healthy. Can we talk more about crystals? If it comes up, we'll share it, you know. But not so much here. Where, I mean, if it comes up, I'll kind of hit on it a little bit. But because some people not ready for some of those things. And when you say crystal, people who are still kind of, they don't really understand what you're talking about, right? I know it has to do with nature and all that stuff, but we haven't quite gotten to that stuff yet. And people still kind of mishandles things, and then everything is witchcraft to everybody, but they can simply go test principles. But if it comes up through the course of our reading, I may begin to explain it a little bit, blessed and healthy. But until then, some things we just kind of leave alone right now. Not that I don't necessarily go and look into it and study outside of this, because I do, because I know what it is, but I don't think some people are quite ready for it yet. If they don't get that Yahuwah is one, everything else is a loss at this point. We're trying to get people to realize our focus should only be on Yahuwah and Yahuwah alone, right? So, but yeah, so that's what unleavened bread prepares you for. It has you looking deeper into your own life, but you wanted to know more. Well, email me, sis. Email me, and we can kind of talk back and forth. The email is found in my about section. Okay, let me read unleavened bread again. Next, unleavened bread. Next, we prepare our soil. Our lives are cleared as a farm field for planting by getting out the stones, boulders, and weeds, clearing our lives of the sin by our decision to repent. When we remove the leavened bread, we are seeing the shadow of the spiritual action taking place. And just like I was saying, when you do that and you begin to become cognizant of all these things that you're doing these feats and actually performing this, is preparing our heart, right? We're removing those boulders and those stones out of the way. So when we plant, and those who garden know, you got to do some prep work first. You can't just throw seeds down there in rocky ground, right? Some of these we got to take these weeds up, right? Otherwise, it's going to choke out the seed. The seed is not going to grow. So by us practicing this, doing unleavened bread, and the days coming up to unleavened bread, it's like us clearing the ground, de-weeding, moving the rocks and boulders, making sure it's good to receive the seed that's coming, right? So that's what it's doing. Avoiding leaven for 7 days, we are now prepared to receive what is to be sown. Something is coming into our soul to dwell and grow there. The Torah, which is the personality of Yahuwah. The parable of the sower shows how we are different types of soil. Paul told us to keep the feast, 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and 8. The 7 days picture the lifespan. Psalms chapter 90, verse 10, during which we attempt to clear out the sin, clutter, and nonsense in our lives. The first day of Matzah, which is also another name for unleavened bread, is on the 15th of the moon. The first day of Matzah, unleavened bread, is on the 15th of it should say the first moon, right? The first moon of the year. Okay. And is a day of rest or annual high Sabbath, recalling the departure of Israel from Hasatan's kingdom, Egypt. The seventh day of the Feast of Matzah is also a high Sabbath and corresponds to Israel crossing the Yam Suf, or the Sea of Reeds, on dry ground where Pharaoh and his army was drowned. It also relates to our immersion, as did the flood of Noah's day. Obeying by going into the waters begins our salvation by faith, right? And yeah, 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 15 through 22, right? And that was a scary thing. Think about when they was about to cross the Sea of Reeds. First of all, they didn't even know that that water was about to part, right? They was just like, wait, we didn't trust him all the way to here. Oh my gosh. And it might look like you about to die, or they about to take you back into slavery. Then lo and behold, because you got down there to the river's edge, to the water, right? Now you get your next instruction right there. Go across. What? Moses? Anybody got a boat? Stand by and see the salvation of your Lord. Take off running. I don't doubt that the first ones, when they saw this, like, you go first, and then I'm gonna follow. I'll follow out a few of y'all, get a little bit way through, right? I would have probably been like that, like, this don't happen every day. But then again, if I had been there, my adrenaline would probably been high. Here comes Pharaoh. We see them chariots coming. It's probably been like, wait a minute. This didn't happen. Clearly, it's gonna stay up till we get through. So let's go. I might have been the first one. And then again, it's like, whoo, shoot. You know, sometimes we get kind of scared. You go first. Let me see what happened to you. Because I saw what happened to Keisha last week. Let me just make sure it's not one of these type of things. I need to test this. Look, I'd be like, we need to test this first, y'all. Okay, let me keep reading. All right. Shavuot, or Pentecost, the wedding anniversary. Having cleared our field and made ourselves ready for the good seed, we are planted with good seed and the Torah at Shavuot. Mount Sinai was an event, the marriage between Yahuwah and Israel. The good seed is the personality of Yahuwah, or the Torah. These teachings are the 10 Commandments, the wife's wedding vows. They grow in us during the growing season, summer. This is the time when we remember the giving of the 10 Commandments at Sinai and Midian, but now in the renewed covenant, they are written on our hearts and our minds. They are written on the hearts and the minds of Yahuwah's bride by Yahuwah's Spirit indwelling us, who circumcises his commandments into us so we love the covenant. Did we just read that in Jeremiah? Okay. The same 10 Commandments giving in stone are now written on our tablets of flesh, right? The 2 tablets of our flesh, the heart, both sides. That's the tablet right there. He wrote it on that tablet. The same 10 Commandments given in stone are now written on the tablets of flesh, fulfilling the new or renewed covenant promised at Jeremiah 31. Boy, I tell you, can't line this up no better than what y'all be doing with me adding in all my stories and stuff. Yo, who could have planned this on the day that we read this, y'all? That's what I be talking about. I be getting excited. Y'all be like, girl, just keep reading. You're doing too much. But I be super excited about little stuff like this. With all my extra stories that I be adding in every day, getting through one sentence, sometimes getting through 10 pages, sometimes we get through one page or one little paragraph. But it all lined up to where when we read Jeremiah 31, he's talking about Jeremiah 31 today. I'm just saying, yeah, okay, look. The same 10 Commandments given in stone, are now written on our tablets of flesh, fulfilling the new or renewed covenant promise that Jeremiah 31 and 31 through verses 34, Ezekiel 36:26 and 27. Jeremiah 31 is quoted at Hebrews chapters 8 and 10. Our immersion, our immersion pictures our circumcision. As a bride washes after her period of uncleanliness, we make our personal covenant with Yahuwah to obey him as a bride obeys a husband. The first Nazarene received the spirit of Yahuwah at this time. We are his temple now. The Ark of the Covenant was just a box made of gold, but we are so much more than it was. We contain the living Yahuwah, the maker of the heavens and the earth, and his personality. The Torah grows in our being as we practice obeying his commandments. This is the evidence that we are his. 1 John chapter 2, verses 3 through 6. Ooh, y'all, it's something I really want to share with y'all. Okay, so if you look at, so when we was talking about the pineal gland, right? Where we talked about the seat of the soul and how, so don't get spooked out by it, right? But remember we was talking about that. If you go back to the video that I did, and in the title is pineal gland, right? The seat of the soul, right here, right here between the frontlets of your eyes, right inside here. Everybody has one. Every human being has a pineal gland right around the thalamus and the hypothalamus and all this stuff, right? And the pituitary gland, all up here in the brain. What they have found out is that right there, if that is if that is calcified, you become spiritually dense. It's hard for you to understand spiritual things, and it's hard for people to hear Yah, right? It is completely almost crusted over, right? Because that right there, they call that the seat of the soul. Or if you look at different nations who have taught about that, right? They're teaching you a real spiritual principle. And the Ark of the Covenant, I just thought about that. I shared this picture with my sister. And I'll post it here. I'm not going to be able to post the picture to YouTube, but I'll give you the link to the Facebook, to the daily chat here, and go into the comment section and you will see the picture, right? And so what they did, they were talking about the Ark of the Covenant, and they were saying how the Ark of the Covenant, because we, like he just said, we are so much more than that box. We are like the living, walking temple, right? And they show how the brain is up here, how they taught us about the brain in ancient I guess they consider ancient now because we're today, they were back then. So in ancient times, how they taught about this, right? They said you look at the layout of the body, and the body, they taught about the body in relation to the temple, or what Yahuwah was talking about, and how each thing, I'm like, oh shoot, this is friggin' amazing, right? And when it gets to the Ark of the Covenant, they show the Ark of the Covenant as being up here in the head, where the seat of the soul, or the seat, or the mercy seat, where Yahuwah said, I'm going to sit right there on this seat, right? They show a picture of that, and they show the brain and how it looks like how the Ark of the Covenant was described, right? And right there in the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, is where the mercy seat would be, where the judge or the king, or where Yahuwah himself would sit and speak to you. I'm like, what? So I was looking at it in a couple different ways. Like, I know what scripture says, but when you begin to look at it, when you look at things in nature and what we can see and prove and test, mind you, I'm telling you, test everything. I know what we read, but unless everything we read, if it can be proven and it's true, and y'all want us to understand that we can test it somewhere in nature, right? So there are different things you can do where you can activate that, and you can decalcify your pineal gland, especially if you have a very poor diet, or you're eating a lot of junk, drinking a lot of sodas, eating a lot of meats. Doing those things will calcify your pineal gland, which is a medical term, pineal gland. Some people call it the third eye. Some other they call it the third eye, but everybody's talking about the same thing. It's the pineal gland. Now, the quickest way to test that, to see if that works, is to go on a fast. A fast will quickly decalcify your pineal gland, which is why people tend to become more spiritual when they fast, because their vision is clear and they can see, and that the seed of the soul, the ark of the covenant, inside of the ark of the covenant, which is inside of the head, will begin to cleanse itself up, right? Test it. Test it, right? But anyway, I brought all that up to show you that I found a picture. I guess it's been about maybe a little over a week now where somebody actually drew that out with the brain. It's like a picture side by side with the Ark of the Covenant and the brain, like the skeletal form in the brain. Well, not a skeletal form, but excuse me, the brain and the insides of it and how it looks. They had like a picture of the Ark of the Covenant and then the brain, and clearly we know the explanation. And then they kind of take the Ark of the Covenant and sit it over the head. The pictures is like a progressive picture, and you can kind of see, and it's like, oh, that's right where it's right where the pineal gland would sit, right? Because it shows you the skeletal form of the face, the head, and it has all that in there. So it look, ooh, okay, so it can see the skeletal form. And don't be all spooked out because it looked like a skeleton. We all got one of these under our flesh, right? So it actually shows a skeletal form of a human face. And over it sits the Ark of the Covenant, and it shows the outline of this and how it kind of goes with the Ark of the Covenant and with the cherubim and the cherubim with their wings and how they touch. And right there in the center of the head, how the pineal, where the pineal gland is, and how it's the seat of the soul, right there in the middle. Maybe I'm not explaining that the right way, but I hope y'all get what I'm saying. But anyway, I'm gonna share the picture in today's comments on Facebook so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And for YouTube, I'll put the link in the comment section. I'll pin a comment and put the link to the Facebook post for today's video and say, go to the comments and look at the picture. Because I don't have, I can't do like a community page yet. I guess you got to have so many subscribers before you can start posting pictures. So once I hit that mark, they'll let me know when I hit that mark. Once I hit that mark, when I talk about some of these pictures and stuff, I can kind of start sharing them on a community page in YouTube. So I can begin sharing some more information that I got a whole bunch of stuff saved up that I didn't study. I'm just patiently waiting a time where we can intertwine all this thing, where we can kind of start looking at all this stuff, right? Okay. Let me find my spot. What was I at? Okay. The same 10 commandments given in stone are now written on our tablets of flesh, fulfilling the new or renewed covenant promised at Jeremiah 31 and 31 through verses 34. Ezekiel 36:26 and verse 27. Jeremiah 31 is quoted at Hebrews chapters 8 and chapter 10. Our immersion pictures our circumcision as a bride washes after her period of uncleanliness when we make our personal covenant with Yahuwah to obey him as a bride obeys a husband. Right? The first Nazarene received the spirit of Yahuwah at this time. We are his temple now. The Ark of the Covenant was just a box made of gold, but we are so much more than it was. We contain the living Elohim, maker of heavens and earth, and his personality, the Torah, grows into our being as we practice obeying his commandments. This is the evidence that we are his. And that can be found in 1 John chapter 2, verses 3 through 6. But also there's many Old Testament scriptures where you can find that at. Some people call them precepts, right? I don't really use the word precepts a lot, but some people kind of get mad with you because you don't call them precepts. The chain references are every scripture that talks about this particular topic is called a precept, right? Somebody said something to me about precepts yesterday. I don't use that term a lot, but you do hear a lot of the Hebrew community, those who are coming from Christianity, waking up to the Hebrew roots. They're using the word precept a lot, like it's something big. I didn't grow up with the word precept. My mama said it's a chain reference, right? Had a Thompson chain. It's the same thing, though. It's all the scriptures related to a topic. You can get a Strong's Concordance. You can get a Hebrew Greek Bible. I grew up with the Thompson chain Bible. the Hebrew Greek Bible, the interlinear Bible. And my mama taught me how to study and research scriptures, all like scriptures. Today, people getting off on the word precept. Okay. All right, I know what you're talking about. If they chain references, I learned about it growing up. It's the Thompson chain references, right? One scripture will lead you to the next, talking about this word, and it's all on the side of it and all at the bottom. Some have them at the bottom in the footnote section, but in the Thompson chain, it's like the far end of the page on both pages, all the way to the left and all the way to the right on the right page. You will see the chain references or the precepts, which people call them, right? So don't get screwed up if you ever hear people talking about precepts. If you're familiar with Thompson Chain Study Reference Bible, that's all they're talking about, right? But you have to be careful. Let me mention this. You have to be careful, which is why we're going through reading in context. I always say you read it in context because now you went through and you found all the precepts, so all the chain references talking about this topic. Now let's go through and read the whole entire story in its proper context. I know you got the references. You're going to try and beat me down with all the references and say this. I said, but put it in its proper context. Let's read the whole story. Read it like this, right? And so now you have a full understanding of what is being said. So you don't take things out of context, like we was talking about a couple of days ago, especially with the word eunuch, right? You don't want to do that. That's one of them haphazard things of just going from just only looking at precepts. I know Yahuwah said precept upon precept, line upon line, but within its proper context, not taking it out of context, but using it within its proper context. It's good to be able to know where everything is at, how to get to it. That's great. You absolutely need to know that. Like I said, I grew up understanding it as it's called a chain in my mind. So when I started hearing it, I'm like, what do you mean? I know what the word precept meant. Let's say, where are your precepts? What do you mean? They're in the book. And once I listened, I was like, oh, you're talking about the chain references. They say, what? So it's something, when I say chain references, it sounded foreign to them. It's that same type thing with nations who are talking, and some of them are talking about the same stuff, but they're using different terms because they grew up understanding this principle under different terms in their language, right? So I grew up understanding I know what precepts are and I completely understand it, but I grew up understanding it under a different word. Chain references, right? So when I understood that we talking about the same thing, I'm like, oh, wait, we talking about the same thing. This. Yeah. Oh, okay. I grew up understanding that as a chain reference because we use the Thompson Chain Reference Bible, right? Because all the scriptures that were like, they chained together. So those are chain references to me, but they're precepts to others. But we talking about the same exact thing, people, So I'm like, please stop the argument. We're talking about the same thing here. Let's look. Pause for a second. Yeah, Mariah, that's what you call them as well, precepts? Okay. Or chain references. Okay. I forget exactly when your comment popped up. I wasn't sure which one you were talking about. Okay. So yeah. So when you do those and you pull all of them out, you still have to read them within their proper context so you don't get off, right? Okay. But they're there to help you study, but also still, you always have to remember you have to read them within their proper context. Chain references. Okay, I'm okay, right? You must have grew up, your folk must have grew up with my folk. Call them chain references. Okay. I got some help here today. All right. Okay. Let me go back up here and read this. Quit playing. Who yet? Oh, we had an hour and 8 minutes. Okay, let me finish reading this and we'll come back. We contain the living Elohim, maker of heavens and earth, and his personality, the Torah, grows into our being as we practice obeying his commandments. This is the evidence that we are his. 1 John chapter 2, verses 3 through 6. The third step is obedience and begins with our immersion, accepting the covenant, which is the 10 commandments, and going to the water as our outward sign of becoming Yahuwah's bride, joining Israel, escaping the spirit of the world or the mind of the flesh. Accepting the covenant by immersion, we become Israel and his wife. We agree to obey our husband and he circumcises our hearts with the covenant, allowing us to love the Torah, the Ten Commandments. Sinai happens to us personally, and our immersion is by our circumcision by the Spirit of Yahuwah in our hearts, the object being love, evidence of our obedience, right? Oh, that's so good, y'all. We got to stop right here. And once you look, let me tell you something. Need that shirt. Girl, I got it from Amazon. I got like a whole handful of them. My husband be like, girl, why you be getting the same shirt? I said, well, because I like all the colors. He said, well, I get different kinds then. I said, but I like these, so they got different ones. So I tried to get like a variety of stuff. Because sometimes I like to get if I like a shirt, I like to get the same shirt, but different colors. But that bugs the heck out of my husband. I mean, I guess I can see why, but it's a shirt I like. I'm aware with different things. Right? Okay, yeah. Amazon, I seen his link, girl. Christy, hey girl, hey. All right, but we're gonna pause right here, y'all. It was something else I was about to say. What was I about to say? It was something about this. Oh, yeah. When we actually start keeping, he said something right here. It triggered something right here. He said, Sinai happens to us personally, and our immersion is our circumcision by the Spirit of Yahuwah in our hearts, the objective being love, evidence of our obedience. So when he said this, it reminded me how when we actually put into practice what Yahuwah says by keeping the commandments, and when we start getting to that point where, oh, wait a minute, this is just not a thing we do religiously. He's doing this is like teaching ground. It's like boot camp 101. He want to teach us something, but I need you to follow my instruction first before I give you this information, right? I'm gonna just see if you're gonna be obedient. But once you get over there, I'm gonna give you your next step. So once we get over there and we actually get to doing it physically, doing this, right? We began to hear his voice, and he began to teach us some principles, some underlying principles that you can't readily see until you're actually in it, doing it, right? I mean, we began to see, and then what I also began to notice is that it kind of helped clear me up of some of the religious spirit I kind of had. I wasn't bad at some people, at least I don't think I was bad at some people. I'm sure some people like, you are complete butt white, right? I was supposed to have been a Christian, right? But yeah, I tell you, Christians can be some of the nastiest people and acting like they nice, right? Even coming out and calling themselves Hebrews, they be acting the same way. I can't tell if you a Christian, you what? No, you acting like a Christian. But what it does is it begins to root out some of that religious stuff and that hateful. It's not necessarily hateful, but y'all get what I'm saying. And God bless you too. That type of stuff, right? That y'all know Christians are famous for, and people who are religious. I noticed it began to root out that stuff and leaven and everything. And then as I began to really develop a love for Yahuwah's laws, I'm like, wait a minute, this really does bring us life. Like, I can't even begin to, I'd be trying to convey it. I'm like, listen, y'all have to just go try this. Listen, keep at it. Yahuwah said, I'm telling you, there's going to be a breakthrough that happens, or like a moment of clarity. And it's going to be like, oh, snap. He was really telling us the truth, right? So you begin to have those moments as you actually begin to practice this. And the love that you say you have for Yahuwah's people, that actually begins to take roots. When you begin to love his words and realize that they are truly life, you begin to cling to them like your drawers cling to your waist, right? And the love that he has for us, you begin to see glimpses of it. And you realize how he loves us, how he loves his people, your whole attitude towards his people begin to change. Even when people be coming at you like, oh, they be acting crazy, trying to throw you off and stuff, you won't be ready to fight them so quick no more, right? Because you can kind of see, you who are kind of opening your eyes. Yeah, I know. Look, leave them alone. I'm gonna deal with them. You really begin to a true love for Yahuwah's people. And then we kind of find ourselves like Jeremiah. They were you see, we still in the thickets of Jeremiah now. They were trying to kill Jeremiah, have him locked up. And what was Jeremiah doing? Jeremiah loved his people so, even though they were trying to kill him, they was always plotting on him because he was simply trying to tell them what Yahuwah was saying, right? He loves us so much. He said, stop doing that because it's going to lead you to death. Why should you die an early death when life and life more abundantly is awaiting for you here, right? And that's what the prophets are doing. Stop what you're doing and return back to the paths of life, right? Your father, your husband is waiting for you. Right. And that's what we're doing. It's like, get out of here. It's too spiritual for us. I don't like Jeremiah. So you don't like Jeremiah. Yeah, we don't like Jeremiah because you don't like Jeremiah. You got all that kind of craziness going on, right? But as you begin to keep his commands, he begins to break up all that fallow ground and all that craziness that's been put into you over the years through religion and stuff. And you really do begin to develop a love, not just for his commands, for him and for the things he loved for his people. And we find ourselves still trying to pray for them when Yahuwah told Jeremiah, stop praying for this hard-headed people. Now I'm about to whoop their tails because they ain't listening.
Hey.
What a time to come down. Baby. Love you too. Okay, y'all.
Call me once you finish up.
Okay, I'm about to end this.
About that?
Yeah. Is there something else I need to send?
You need to send that.
Hey, we still live. Let's not talk about that on live.
Call me.
Okay, babe. All right, let's go ahead and end this. So, all right, so that was my page on the back. Okay, so we read. Did you come back? Yep. Hey, don't get in the camera, babe. Okay. I love you too. Give me a hug, babe. It might be children here. My wonderful husband graces us with his presence from time to time, y'all. But I don't know what he's gonna be saying. Some of the stuff we need like an adult version only married couples. But we can talk about some of this stuff more freely. But some things we can't quite address here. We should though, because you will talk about it all the time. Okay, babe, because I don't even know what you about to say. Some people like, oh, their channel is X-rated. Right. Okay. All right, y'all. So that was Jeremiah 31, 32, and 33. We read Fossilized Customs, page 260 to page 261. It is Tuesday, July the 27th, 2021, day 217 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 3-year consecutive day count, day 886. All right, yeah. So let's go ahead and do the lesson. Hey, watching you. Hold on, we got me misspelling words over here. I'm sure we can get off here. You want to do the blessing, babe? The king of the household. You want to do the blessing?
Thank y'all for coming out. God bless. Good night.
The blessing can be found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Anybody can take it, man or woman. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, on this wise, ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. All right, y'all. Demi, shalom. Thank you, Mariah. All right, y'all. We out of here.
Yeah. Show them fingers.
All right, look, stop now. Quit playing. All right, y'all. Love y'all. All right, you want to kiss? Look, we can't do this here. We need to start a marriage page. All right, y'all. Love y'all. See y'all in the morning. Peace. Let me end this. Okay, no, stop.